Did you know that on average, out of every single job opening in America, each one is receiving around 250 applications, and that the average recruiter is only spending about 7.4 seconds per resume before deciding whether or not to continue with a candidate? If you are currently in the job market and looking for your next opportunity, if you're submitting dozens of resumes without receiving any kind of feedback or just receiving automatic rejections, then this video today on resume writing is 100% for you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of the Recruiting Hero Show. I am your host, Colin Whittington. I'm also the founder and CEO of Recruiting Heroes, LLC, a national employment agency dedicated to helping America's veterans and law enforcement officers find amazing careers in the private sector. I'm so honored to have you all here today. It means so much that you spent a few minutes of your day with me to talk about resume writing, a topic that I am so excited about. I spend hours a day talking to candidates about their resumes. So I'm honored to be here today to fill you in on the top 3 things that your resume needs to have and things to make sure that you're doing on your resume to set you apart from other candidates who are applying for the same jobs that you are applying to. I want to let you know really quick that today I am giving away my free resume template. It's a beautiful template that I've created that I use for my own resume, as well as for all of our candidates at Recruiting Heroes. We've now written well over, I think, 600 resumes for law enforcement officers and veterans who have successfully transitioned to the private sector. And this template is absolutely awesome. I'll link it down below in the description. You can also find it at recruitingheroesllc.com. We'll have that template available on our homepage, as well as a few other giveaways like our Heroes Job Search Guide and a few other things. So do check those out for sure. I also want to quickly let you know that this Saturday, February the 22nd at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be hosting a 2-hour webinar, free training on the process of transitioning from a life of service to the private sector. It's completely for free. I'll be talking about resume writing some more, LinkedIn, job interviewing, and so much more. One lucky viewer will also win my reverse recruiting and career coaching package, which includes a free resume, a LinkedIn optimization service, and 3 months of one-on-one coaching with me. So about a $2,000 value for free to one lucky viewer. But you do have to be there to win it, so make sure you check it out. If you're seeing this video after that training, I will also post the free training on YouTube as well, so you can check that out at your leisure. But let's quickly dive into the topic of resume writing and the 3 things that you want to make sure you are focused on when writing or updating your resume. As I mentioned already, resume writing is just such an important part of the job search process. It really is, your resume really is the first thing a company will see about you when you go to apply. Again, it's not like in law enforcement where you really apply and then you get asked to interview, and it's pretty much an automatic process as long as you have nothing disqualifying in your background. That's not really the case in the private sector. In the private sector, you have to apply for a job first, and they have to decide between you and maybe 250 other candidates to decide who they want to interview. And it's very unlikely that they're going to want to interview more than maybe 3 to 5 people or so. So if you're not in that top 5 group of candidates, the chances of you even being invited to interview are slim to none. So you want to make sure your resume is set up for absolute success. And there are a lot of ways to do it. This is a topic that we can cover for hours and hours. But today I just want to do the top 3 things that I think are most important. So starting off with number 1, it is the absolute necessity to have a very strong executive summary. A lot of resumes I see don't have any at all or very, very weak ones. So the executive summary is a small paragraph or short paragraph at the very top of your resume, right below your name and contact information is where this should be found. It should be between 3 to 6 sentences, perhaps, about who you are as a candidate and what makes you the perfect fit for this role. This is an area where a lot of candidates mess up. Again, a lot of them either don't have it at all or they have a very generic and boring first paragraph about themselves. As I already mentioned, the average recruiter is only going to look at your resume for about 7 to 7.5 seconds before deciding whether or not they want to move forward with you as a candidate for their open position. As the way the human eye kind of works, when you look at a document, the very first place your eye is going to look is towards the top middle of that page. So that is exactly where you want your most important information. So that very first paragraph, smack dab, the top middle part of your resume is so vitally important because that might be all the recruiter looks at before deciding whether or not he wants to move forward with you. So you want those 4 to 6 sentences to be super impactful. You don't want to make it generic. You want to be highlighting who you are as a candidate and use data and or metrics to articulate your skill set. I'll mention it several times throughout this video, but every single word and every single sentence in your resume should have a very strong purpose. And that purpose is to show that you are the best candidate for that specific job. You could be the greatest candidate in the world for one industry, but if you're applying for something totally different, you need to change your resume to show you're a great fit for that role as well. It does you no good to highlight how great of a candidate you would be for a security manager job if you're applying for a recruiting director position. They're vastly different opportunities, so you want to make sure you highlight what makes you a good fit for that specific role, and we'll highlight that again on a future tip. So the summary is so important. Again, you want to really grab someone's attention. So you don't want to be boring. You want to highlight you and what makes you very, very a fantastic fit for this role. Instead of using very generic phrases, use metrics to highlight your achievements. So you can say something like this: led investigations resulting in over 50 felony convictions, or managed IT security for a Fortune 500 company, reducing cyber threats by 30%. So these are both examples where they're highlighting what they've done, but then also using metrics to highlight what exactly they were able to achieve with that organization. And that's what you want to make sure you do on your resume. The second one is also very important, and that is using action-oriented and results-driven content. So much of what I see in law enforcement resumes, especially, are that they're very vague and very generic when they're talking about their work experience. So, on your work history, you want to start with your current or most recent job first and go backwards from there. As I mentioned all the time, that's super important. Don't start off with your oldest job and then go up to current day. Start with your current job first. And you want to use bullet points on your work experience, not paragraph format. In these bullet points, you want to highlight exactly what you've done in that position. Too often, what law enforcement officers are doing is being very generic. They're saying, I respond to emergency calls for service. That's awesome. I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate your service. But that is exactly what 500 or 800,000 other police officers across the country are also doing. Many of them who may also be applying for the job that you're interested in. That's not going to set you apart. But if you say the same exact thing, but you say, I patrolled a 5 square block region that had about 40,000 citizens, and I responded to approximately 15 calls for service per day, and had a 78% closure rate on my cases. Something along those lines will be way more impactful than just saying I responded to emergency calls for service. All right, so give data and metrics and action verbs. Again, I can't stress it enough. Every single bullet point needs to be showing why you are the best fit for that specific role. If you find that a bullet point is very vague and kind of a space filler, I'd much rather you take that out and have a shorter resume than just adding fluff. Make every single bullet point count and try to highlight the skills that are most vital to that role. And that brings us to our final one, and that is a combination of two things. First of all, it is the formatting of the resume, and then it's keywords as well. So formatting. Again, resumes are your first impression that you make on a company or on a recruiter. If your resume is a complete mess or it's overly complicated, you're going to instantly turn off the candidate's interest in you. And it's going to be very difficult to win that back, regardless of your experience. Nowadays, there are so many free resources out there for resume templates, all right? There's no reason to really pay for one. Again, I'm giving away my resume template for completely for free. It's the one I use on my own personal resume and as well as on all the candidates that I work on. And it's a beautiful resume template. So go down below, click on the link, and download your free copy. You can easily input your information from your current resume onto there, and it'll make it look 10 times better immediately without even touching the content. One of the reasons why having a good professional resume template is so important is because of applicant tracking systems. You've probably heard about this 1,000 times already, but every single notable company in the country is using applicant tracking systems. It's a way for recruiters and hiring managers to stay organized, and it's also a way to streamline their recruiting processes. They'll type up a job description in the ATS. They'll hit submit. It'll go out to all the job boards they're partnered with. For my company, it's over 30 at them, 30 of job boards at this time. No matter where you apply for that job, it gets funneled back to my company in our applicant tracking system. My system will then scan your resume against the job description and tell me with a percentage score how close of a match you are for that job. So it could say that John here is a 75% match, but Sarah is actually an 82% match. So the system's telling me that she's a better fit for the role. My team and I take the time to read every resume we receive just because that's really what we stand for. We believe in reading every single resume and giving every candidate a fair shot. But that is definitely not the case with a lot of companies. Recruiters are often overworked. Some of them are a little bit lazier. But for the most part, it's just really the overworked part that when they're working on 20 roles at a time and each role gets 100 applications, that's a ton of resumes for anyone to read through. So let's say a recruiter is working on a security manager position. It receives 100 applications. The applicant tracking system tells them, hey, these are the top 10 based on our scan. If a recruiter is really busy, he or she may only read those top 10 resumes. Again, this is only based on the scan, not actually on who's the most qualified candidate. But if your resume only ranks number 11th, or God forbid, number 90th, your resume may never actually be seen by human eyes. So you may automatically get disqualified just because of that. So then the recruiter will only spend time looking at the top 10 resumes. And the way you make, there's a couple of things you need to do to make sure that you land in that top 10 or top 5 or top 1, ideally. Again, having a professional template is super important. If you have a resume that is filled with bars and graphs and boxes, it makes it much harder for that system to read the resume. And if your boxes are not applicant tracking system friendly, the words in there may never actually get scanned. So be very careful with that. I also see the problem with candidates making their resume on places like Canva, where it saves the resume as an image versus like a PDF or Word document. That again makes it much more challenging for the applicant tracking system to actually scan and read the words on your document. So make sure you're saving your resume as a PDF or Word document. Then we come to the very, very important part of keywords. And this is a huge part of tailoring your resume. I use this example quite often. Let's say you're applying for a job where they're saying on their job description that they're looking for somebody who has experience mentoring new employees. On your resume, you were an FTO, let's say. On your resume, you put down that you trained rookie officers. So the exact same thing, right? Trained rookie officers, mentored new employees are the exact same thing. But if you're not using the same words as the job description, when the applicant tracking system scans your resume, it's not going to catch the words mentored, new, and employee. It's going to say, see trained rookie officers, and it's going to score you less because you do not have the words that they're looking for. And in their mind, in the system's mind, you do not have the skill that the recruiter's looking for. So you're going to score lower. So while it might seem ridiculous, changing your resume's wording to match the job description is so important in this current job market. Read through the job description and see, especially under the qualifications and key responsibilities. Those are the two key areas you want to read and see what they're looking for. If they mention a software or a skill set or a job duty that you have experience with, make sure it's articulated on your resume in the same phrasing or type of wording that is used on the job description. Of course, I never advocate lying on your resume, But if you have a skill set, it behooves you to put it on your resume, right? So whether or not it's currently on your resume or it's worded differently, you need to make sure it's added or rephrased to perfectly match the job description. And that will make you score so much higher on the applicant tracking system scan, which will then increase your chances of landing an interview. And in the interview is where you can go in and shine and do phenomenally well and then land the job of your dreams. But it all starts with your resume. Resume, 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 and tailoring your resume is just so important. So if you do nothing else after this video, go and tailor your resume for the jobs you're applying to. I'd much rather you lower the number of applications you're putting out per day, but make each application very tailored and specific versus you just submitting dozens or hundreds of resumes per day, hoping something sticks. And that's what's really happened recently with the easy apply option on LinkedIn. Candidates are just sending a ton of applications thinking they're doing themselves a service, when in reality, they're really hurting their chances of ever landing a job with those organizations. So make sure you take your time, tailor your resume, have a strong executive summary, and use action verbs and data to strengthen your resume. All right, guys, that was a lot of information there to cover very quickly, but those are our three main points when writing a strong resume that you want to make sure you put onto your resume and focus on while you're writing it. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, I really encourage you to come this Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our free training. I'm going to go much deeper into resume writing. We're going to actually show you the resume template and show you what to write, how to write it, and so much more, including LinkedIn and interviewing. Again, it's completely for free. Follow the link below to join. I'm also giving away a $2,000 coaching package to one lucky viewer, so you don't want to miss that. But again, I hope you'll see you there. And as always, please do like this video and subscribe to this channel. It means a lot to me and helps us reach more law enforcement officers and veterans. And until our next video, I hope you stay safe. It's a crazy world out there, so do stay safe, watch your six, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye, guys.